All right, guys, welcome to our Amplify virtual meeting. Today we have Music Defined that was created by Bina, which is going to be our host and present today, all about publishing, royalty, copyright, and more. This is a very exciting presentation as it's been in demands from all of you Amplify Her people. So here we go, Bina, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. And again, I apologize for the tech issues, but thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And for those of you who joined it, thank you so much. I always like it and I get joy from songwriters, creators like yourselves who take an interest and take the steps to understand the music business. As creators, your focus is on being creative, understandably, but there are so many reasons why you do what you do, and one of those reasons is money. You want to make enough money to do this full time, you want it to be your career, you want to get the exposure that you deserve, and that's why I always talk about and put a great deal of focus on the business behind the music. And that's what it is ultimately. Whether you're making money or whether you want to protect your creativity, it's a business. Why should you create something amazing for somebody else to use it, for somebody else to exploit it, and for you not to get the credit you deserve or receive the appropriate remuneration? So before we get started, a little bit about me, for those of you that don't know. I've been in the music business for 22 years. It's insane when I think about it, but I've been in business for 22 years. I started my career at PRS for Music, which some of you should be familiar with. I hope you're familiar with. I did some time TV at Discovery Channel. I spent a big chunk of my career at iTunes, as it was known when I joined, and I was part of the team that launched Apple Music. And I was the first lawyer to qualify as part of the iTunes Apple Music team. I then went on to spend some time at Chappell, looking after the rights of songwriters. And I was kind of licensing the rights, Chappell songwriters' rights on two platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, all those kind of streaming services. I then went on to Peloton, which some of you may have been, some of you may be aware of, to their global music licensing. And now I am currently at SoundCloud, where I look after all of the music licensing, labels and publishers, PROs and any partnerships, and doing some work with the creators side as well. I set up Music Defined about 3 years ago. It was our third birthday on Saturday. And I set it up to work with creators like yourself to teach about the music business. Just from my career, I just saw there was a gap, and there's so much information out there. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not gonna find what you need. So it was to kind of fill that gap and just get you creators the information you need. I also do some work with nonprofit organizations, and one of my best things I've done to date is, I don't know how many of you read kind of music books, but there's a book called All You Need to Know About the Music Business, which was my Bible throughout my career, and I was lucky enough to be asked to contribute to that. So that's the one in the bottom left-hand corner. So if you ever come across it, I kind of contributed to the kind of UK version. It's predominantly US focused, but they did a European version. So that's me. So I've got my name in a book. I've made it. So that's me. So what we're going to go through today, I'm going to talk about your rights as a creator, primarily as a kind of songwriter, about protecting yourself, making sure you're getting paid. I'm going to show you the kind of the royalty flow of for streaming services, whether you're a songwriter or an artist. And just where things could go wrong. I'm going to touch upon labels and publishers and just go through a few next steps. So this might not work because I can't see any of you guys, but please just shout out. Who's a songwriter here?
If you, just let her know how many. If you guys want to post on the chat what you do, I will tell her. So we have Emma, that's a songwriter. Monica, that's a songwriter.
Any performers, artists?
Margarita, Lily is a songwriter. Any performers? Oh, performers as well. Artist, performer, Emma. Yep. Kat is a singer-songwriter and a drummer.
Amazing.
Stephanie, singer-songwriter. Jessica, singer-songwriter. And VA in music. Laurel, singer-songwriter.
Amazing. So a lot of songwriters.
Yeah.
How many of you have written a song, performed it, released it, or written songs with other people? I'm presuming all of you.
Yeah, we have Olivia, there's a session musician, Emma, Kat, Jessica, all the above. Yeah.
Amazing. And then can I just ask, why did you release music? Was it for the exposure? Is it to make money? Is it for something else? Share your creativity. What is it?
Emma says all of them. Jessica says to share my music with the world.
Yeah, love it.
Kat says share my songs to a wider audience.
Yeah.
Collaboration is fun, Tammy says.
Love it, of course. Amazing. I'm not creative at all, by the way. I couldn't play a note or anything. So
Johanna says that to deliver what's in my heart. Ivana says I'm super beginning, not done any of those yet.
Amazing. There's still time, and this is the first great step. So for those of you that have written music, performed and or released music, or even kind of written songs, do you know what your rights are? If you've written a song, who knows what their rights are? Or if you've performed on a record or you're an artist, do you own that record? Does somebody else own it? Do you know what you get paid for? Anyone want to?
Emma says roughly know what they are.
Yeah. What are they? Tell me, Emma.
Emma, if you wanna take over, you can speak out loud as well. That's fine.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. No pressure.
No, yeah, don't worry. We're nice.
Don't worry.
Hi. I think it depends, doesn't it? Depend on the song, like who released it, where you recorded it, if you wrote it with someone else, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have you written on a song? I'm gonna put you on the spot now, so I'm sorry. Have you written a song? Have you written a song?
Yeah, I've written a few in different, like, so some with other people, some on my own.
Cool. Do you know what rights you have as a songwriter?
I think it depends on the song.
Okay, good to know. Interesting. I'm going to tell you. I'm always just intrigued to see what people think. So what I always kind of say is, if you know whether you know if you don't know your rights, it's how can you protect yourself? How do you protect your music? How do you know that you're missing any payments? If you're going to license music, say you've got a sync deal and you're a songwriter, what rights are you licensing to that, to that TV program or that games company or the app, that advert? What are you licensing if you're not sure what your rights are? How can you exploit it? Can you do something? If you go into a publishing deal, once you've entered that publishing deal as a songwriter, can you do anything with your music after that, or have you just handed it over? Same with a label deal. As an artist, if you're on a label deal and you've recorded music and you're with that label, can you go off and just record those? Can you just go off and take those sound recordings and just go and do anything with them? So one thing I will say is that you have to know your rights before you can protect them or even kind of make money from them, and just knowing where you stand. So how many of you have seen this sign? I hope everyone says yes. Feel free to just shout out.
Yes,
Yeah,
Emma, yeah, Olivia.
Who can tell me what it means?
Copyright.
Yeah. What's copyright?
Copyright protected, Monica says.
Yeah.
Alvina says copyright. Yeah, copyright.
Yeah. All right, cool. No, it's cool. So yeah, copyright, as you said, you've seen it. You probably have seen it everywhere. If you look at my presentation as well, right in the bottom right hand corner next to music defined, you'll see the words copyright. This means it's like you said, protected by copyright. So copyright is an exclusive right. As creators, anything that you create, you have an exclusive right to it. That means you can reproduce it, perform it, and distribute it. So these are the different rights you have. So if we just take a songwriter, as a songwriter, you have the right to reproduce and make copies of that. So if you think about a streaming service, so something like Apple Music, and your song's on there. Every time a user goes to listen to your song, there's a kind of copy being made on the server somewhere. So you, as a songwriter, under your various licenses, which I'll go into shortly, you'll have given Apple the authority, the permission to make copies of your song and to then perform it or communicate it. So at the point the user presses stream or play, there's a copy being made and there's a digital transmission that goes from the Apple servers to that user. That's a communication. Or public performance, if you hear music in a bar, a restaurant, live performance, anything where you're performing that or communicating that, that's an exclusive right. The right to distribute, exactly in the same sense of a stream. At the point Apple send that stream to that user, there's a distribution happening. So these are the rights you have, and you can authorize a third party to do these things, to reproduce, perform, distribute. You can assign your rights. So as a songwriter entering into a publishing deal, you're assigning your rights to a publisher, and you can stop people doing this. So if your music is being used by somebody and you haven't given them the authority to do it, you can stop them. You can say, hey, that's mine, stop using it. Same as this presentation. I've created this presentation. If somebody took this and started distributing it, I'd come to you and say, hey, stop using my presentation. So I've got a protection over this deck as you have over your music. So there's different rights in copyright. As going to talk about those rights in copyright. The point you get copyright is not when you have an idea, but when you write your lyrics. If we're just talking about writing a song, at the point you write your song in a tangible form, so writing it on a piece of paper, doing a voice note, or anything tangible, that is at the point that you have copyright protection, provided it is unique. So it's not copied. So at the point you write your lyrics and melody down on a piece of paper, a voice note, or record it in any other shape or form, and it's unique, that is at the point that you have copyright. And as a copyright owner, you have protection for authors, composers. At the point for the composition, you have 70 years from your death. So there's a prolonged period of time where you have copyright protection. So you wrote a song today and you died today, 70 years after your death, you would have that copyright protection. After that, it goes into public domain, anybody can use it. On the sound recording side, slightly different. It's 70 years from commercial release. So you could have recorded it 10 years ago, but the point that recording is released, that is when you have copyright protection for 70 years, and then after that it goes into the public domain. And then just to say, there are two parts of a song. You've got the sound recording and you've got the composition. So always remember, there's always two parts to a song. Proving ownership, this is the difficult one, because like I said, you could be sitting in your house, in your studio, in your bedroom, writing a song. At the point you've written that song and it's unique, you've got copyright. But no one was in that room to see you write that song. There's no proof that you wrote that song. In the UK, there is no copyright database. Unlike the US, where you can register your copyrights, there is no way of proving it. So the one thing I always say is always make sure you're keeping a record of your writing process, writing dates, every scrap notes that you're working on. If you're working with a co-writer, once that song is written, email it to yourselves, confirming your ownership, but also think about the date, the time, where you were at the time, anything that you can show that you wrote that, or that song existed before a certain date. You'll never be able to fully prove that you wrote that song, but you will be able to prove that that song existed before a certain date and that you have a copy of that. Traditionally, you've probably heard it, it was the whole thing about posting it to yourself. That's what they used to do back in the day. So you would get your lyrics, your melody, put it into an envelope, send it to yourself by registered post, registered delivery, recorded delivery it's called. You would sign for it and you would leave it in the envelope. That was it. And at the point, if there was any kind of dispute and over that song and it went to court, that letter would then be opened in court, because you've got the postmark there, you've got the signature date, and you would open it in court, and that would show that that song existed before a certain date. So I always say, just keep any kind of record that you can, email it to yourself, keep voice notes, anything that you can do to prove that that song existed before a certain time. And also on the ownership side, when you're working with other co-writers, always make sure you have the conversation about what percentage you're going to own. So if two of you are working on something, you can just agree for it to be 50-50, or you can say, well, hold up, I wrote, more than that. I'm going to take 70%. You're going to take 30, or whatever it is. Always have that agreement with them and get that agreement documented, whether you send an email, you can send an email with your lyrics, email it to yourself, say, hey, we wrote this song, I'm going to take 50, you're going to take 50, or whatever your percentage is. Don't leave it to chance. Don't leave it to just before you're about to release. Get it done at the point that song has been written. Also think about other people that you're working with, if it's session musicians, producers, engineers. Remembering there's two parts of the song, thinking about, did that producer, did that session musician contribute to the lyrics and the melody, the actual composition, or did they contribute to the sound recording? If they contributed to the composition, they are technically a songwriter, and you would agree a percentage with them. If they didn't, be clear with them that, hey, me and X co-writer wrote this song, you didn't, you're not getting any publishing credit. Songwriter credit. Obviously you can be a bit nicer than that, but it's just about being really, really clear. And I always just say, doesn't matter if you're working with your best mate, a parent, a sibling, someone you've worked with, someone really famous, it doesn't matter. Make sure you get that documented, because it's always going to come up later on, especially if that song blows up and you haven't got any agreement with your co-writer as to what percentages you control. And what you should do as well, which I'll go into in a moment, is register your works. If you have a publisher, they would do that for you, but just making sure all of that is documented. Any questions on that piece?
Yeah, Emma, do you want to ask a question? No pressure. Are you there? Okay, I'll read your question. She says, I have a question about composition suggestion being songwriter or not after a song is written.
Sorry, say that again.
She says that, Emma, are you there? Because I don't understand the question myself. Oh, okay, her mic is not working. So she says, I have a question about composition suggestions being a songwriter or not after a song is written. I wrote a song with my friend recently.
Yep.
Another friend played the drums. I think it's, do I have special rights being the songwriter? Is that what you're asking? Oh, she says, 1 second. This is live.
I love it.
He suggests, so another friend plays the drums. He suggests another one of play something in the recording, trying to type fast. Okay, so he is now a songwriter.
No.
Okay.
Right. So you've got the song, you've got the composition, and then you've got the sound recording. So the composition is, look, back in the day, you would write a song on a piece of paper, you would go into the studio, you would record it. But ultimately now you can go into a studio with nothing and come out with a recording at the end of it. So if you think about, if you were to put that composition onto a piece of paper, or somebody was to cover that song, just the lyrics and the melody makes up the composition. If your friend has then played drums, they are on the sound recording. So that's a different right that they have. So the authors of the song, the people that wrote the lyrics, wrote that melody, are the ones that would be deemed the songwriters. Of course, if you want, you can give your friend a percentage of the songwriting, but just bearing in mind, if you do that, absolutely fine. It's up to you. There's no right or wrong. If you do that, at the point somebody covers your song, so say I come along, you don't want me to sing your song, but say I come along and say, hey, I love this song, Emma's song, I'm going to record it myself. So even though your friend didn't contribute to the lyrics and you've given him a percentage and he only did the drums, when I re-record that song as a cover, your friend's going to get royalties every single time. So just bear that in mind as well. So if it's just you and your co-writer that wrote the song, you are the songwriters, you get the ownership of the composition. And then any musical contribution your other friend made, they would get royalties from the sound recording. You either pay them a one-off fee or they get royalties. Is that clear?
She says, yeah, okay, fair enough. Thanks.
Yeah, perfect, cool. We can go into it further later as well. All right, cool. So that's just your rights. And then just talking about what we've just talked about now. So you've got the composition, you've got the authors with the writer, the composer. It forms part of the lyrics and melody. It falls under the kind of umbrella of publishing, and the rights are owned or controlled by the author if you're self-published, unless you have a publisher, and then you would assign those rights subject to your agreement to the publisher. And under the composition, there are two rights called the mechanical and the performance. So when I mentioned earlier about the right to reproduce and the right to communicate under law, what it is. The mechanical right is that right to copy, make copies of, and performing is the right to digital transmission or live performance or whatever it is. So they're the two rights that fall under composition. And then you've got the sound recording, which is the audio recording of the composition. And you've heard the different words: recorded music, master, sound recording. And these are owned slightly different. These are owned by the sound recording owner. Sounds a bit silly, but it's the party usually. The rule of thumb is usually the party that pays for sound recording studio time to record that sound recording is usually the owner of the sound recording, unless you have a separate agreement with whoever to own the sound recording. And unlike the composition, there are no separate rights. It's just 100% the sound recording right. And I always like to say this because it always kind of puts things into perspective. So you can have a composition without a sound recording. So you can have multiple songs that you've written, but they don't have to be associated with a sound recording. But you can't have a sound recording without a composition. So you will only get a sound recording once you have a composition, lyrics and a melody, and then somebody makes a recording of that. So the composition will always come first. And what I always say is, like, songwriters are like the backbone of the industry, because if there's no compositions, there's no sound recordings, there's no music industry. So that's one thing I just kind of puts in perspective as well, in terms of the two separate rights. Any questions?
On the chat, there's no questions. If
Cool.
you guys have any questions as she goes along, just go ahead and I'll read it when she asks.
Yeah. Cool, thank you. Right, so who's heard of these? And I need a resounding yes from everyone.
Yeah, good. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Kat, Emily, yes. Laurel, yes.
Perfect. As long as there's a few yeses. So you've got PRS and music, which is the umbrella now for PRS and MCPS. So PRS.
MCP, yeah, sorry, MCP is not a lot of people. Kathy and Monica do not know what MCP is.
Oh, okay, cool. So MCPS and PRS. So when I used to work there, they were two separate kind of entities. So PRS is the society that looks after performance rights. So we talked about the communication, the public performance, they look after that. And then the MCPS is the society that looks after the mechanical right, that right to reproduce. They're two separate companies. They kind of form like an alliance together. They work together now. So now they're under the umbrella of PRS for music. So that kind of forms both of them. So what they do, so as a songwriter, you should be a member of both. If you are published, so traditionally back in the day, you needed a publisher to exploit your music and get your music out there. You couldn't, unlike today, you couldn't do it yourself. So songwriters didn't need to be members of MCPS, because you had a publisher, they would do it, and you would be a member of PRS, and your royalties will flow, some through PRS and some through MCPS. Sorry, your publisher. Now, given the way it's easy for songwriters, creators to exploit their music, you can record something today, get it mixed and mastered, and then by Friday you can have it on Apple Music. You couldn't do that back in the day, or even press it or anything like that. So as songwriters, as creators, you have to be a member of PRS and MCPS. If you're not a member of MCPS and your music is on platforms like streaming services like Apple and Spotify and SoundCloud, you're potentially missing out 50% of your royalties. So if you think about a stream, And so imagine it's a pound a stream. It's definitely not a pound a stream. But if you were getting £1 for every stream, you would roughly be getting 50% for the performing rights. And then there will be 50%, the other 50 pence comes through for the mechanical right, because there's 2 rights in a composition. Both of them are revenue streams. So you would be getting half your money or percentage of your money through PRS and a percentage through MCPS. If you're not a member and you're only a member of one, you're not getting all your royalties. So,
sorry, just one question. Monica says, if a songwriter has a publisher, do they need MCPS?
No, provided you have an exclusive songwriter agreement with your publisher. So an exclusive songwriter agreement is pretty much they control everything that you've written, and they will for a certain period. They will collect your MCPS royalties, your mechanical royalties, and then whatever deal you have, whatever percentage is agreed under your agreement, they will give you that percentage of the mechanical royalties. But you definitely do have to be a member of PRS, even if you have a publishing deal.
And Olivia is saying, I assume it's free to be a member of these organizations.
No. So PRS and MCPS are now £100. It's a one-off fee. You pay that if you're under 30. They do have the kind of £30 for under 30s, but it's a one-off fee. Your royalties will come through. So PRS distributes every quarter, which some of you probably already know, and then MCPS will distribute to you on a monthly basis, but you do need to be a member. Please note that this is just in the UK. So if you're based in the UK, it's usually kind of a lot of people will join the societies they would join the societies of their country. You can join a different one, but just bear in mind they look after your rights on a worldwide basis. So I know there's somebody in this group that's a member of the Canadian Society. Somebody else is a member of the US PRO. So every country has their own, but they will look after your rights on a worldwide basis. So I just say choose the one that's local to you. It's better.
Monica's asking, does TuneCore Publishing or similar counts as a publisher?
No, no. What they will do, you still need to be a member of PRS and MCPS. Those kind of distributors do some publishing services, but it doesn't take away from these memberships that you need. They will do similar services to Centric or Songtrust, where they will kind of administer your rights outside of your local territory. So they'll, if you're getting royalties in Australia, they will make sure you're getting those royalties from Australia, but it doesn't take away these memberships that you need.
Olivia is asking, at what point in your career would you recommend committing to put money into these platforms for royalty collections?
Which platforms?
I think PRS, MCPS. When would you
do it? Straight away. If you are a songwriter and you're looking to get music out there, in any shape or form, whether you're posting on social media, whether you're sharing music, you are putting it on, you might get radio plays, anything where your music is out there, become a member. Do not wait. Become a member ASAP. No good?
Yeah, all good.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then, so that's just as a songwriter. As a performer, as an artist, if you have performed on any sound recording, whether you've sung, whether you've done backing vocals, you're the featured artist, even if you've played drums, like Emma's friend, or you've made any musical contribution to a sound recording, so I could even mean like clicking your fingers, tapping your feet, any kind of musical contribution to a sound recording, or you control a sound recording, you need to become a member of PPL. So what they do is when your music is being used in either on TV or broadcast, not streaming services, or if your music played in public, they will pay you royalties for that. So any public performance of your sound recording is what the royalties will generate via PPL, and you would get royalties for those. If you control a sound recording, if you own a sound recording and you're also the featured performer and you've played certain instruments, you're going to get different, you're going to get more pieces of that pie. It's usually, I think, 50%, 30, I'll double check the percentages, but usually I think 50 or 37.5% goes to the sound recording owner, and another 37.5% goes to the featured artist, that's the main performer. And then the remaining 25%, I think it is, my maths are correct, will go to all of the other kind of contributors, whether, you're finger clicking, tapping your feet, playing drums, playing the ukulele, or any other musical contribution that you've made. This one, it's free to join. But if you are a sound recording owner or a performer, you have to have two separate kind of memberships, but it is free. So if you've been on any kind of sound recording, make sure you're a member.
Emma's asking, so should I add my friend to my PPL if he played drums, even if recorded through me?
Absolutely. He needs to become a member himself, just like you have become a member of PRS or MCPS. He would need to join. You join as an individual person, and that is your membership. So he would need to join. And whoever controls that sound recording will need to register that sound recording with PPL. And then the performers will then go in and kind of register their claim on that work. So then they can go in and say, I play the drums, I tap my fingers, click my fingers, I'm featured performer, I'm a backing vocalist. So they would then go do that. And then PPL will, then the royalties will just flow to them directly. You don't need to do anything for them. They need to do that themselves.
Okay. And then Johanna says, do you recommend to become a member of only local societies, or does it help to subscribe to more than one and in different countries?
So on the composition side with PRS and MCPS, I would traditionally say join your local one. They will look after your rights on a worldwide basis. So you can't become a member of PRS in the UK and then ASCAP in the US and then SOCAN in Canada and AKM in Austria. You would need to become a member of one. You can, in some instances, tell PRS, hey, you're going to look after me worldwide, excluding the US, and then you can become a member of, say, ASCAP or BMI in the US. And then you tell ASCAP or BMI in the US, hey, I only want you to look after me for the US. I kind of advise against that just because that's a lot for you to manage. So making sure your songs are registered with both, you're getting royalties. On the PRO and the MCPS side, I would just choose one that works for you and let them collect for you on a global basis. And same with PPL, they will collect. I think they've got, is it 100 and something countries? They have so many countries where they have kind of reciprocal agreements. So provided everything is registered, they will collect your royalties in other markets. So just register with your local ones. But it doesn't have to be your local one. If you're based here and you want to be a member of ASCAP or BMI in the US, you can do that. But just bear in mind, they will collect for you worldwide. But I would say go with your local one because it's easier to kind of manage relationships and contact them and be easier in that sense.
Okay.
All good?
Thank you.
Cool. Right. So we've talked about writing songs. We've talked about keeping a record. I know we're going over time, so I'm going to try and keep the last bit quite quick. We've talked about, ownership. Question, how do you think your song is linked to the money? How does your song get you the money that's due to you? Any ideas?
RC codes, Katy says.
RC codes?
Sorry,
ISRC codes.
Yeah.
Yes, kinda. Yes.
Okay. Monica says license. Emma says PRS.
How does it get from PR? Right. Okay. So these are all good ones. These all fit into it. So how many of you have heard the word metadata?
Monica says yes.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Somebody says no. Olivia says no. She never heard of it.
Okay, cool. So metadata, if you ever follow me on socials or you hear me speak, I always talk about metadata being king. Metadata is what's going to get you paid. Metadata is going to get you paid and it's going to get you discovered. So metadata is pretty much, in essence, just a set of data that identifies or describes something. So when it comes to music, there's two types. There's descriptive. This is the kind of metadata that's going to get you discovered, whether it's discovered for sync, discovered for cataloging, discovered from mapping or credited. So if you think about, if your music is on Apple Music, there's bits of information that link you to your profile page. So when you're delivering music, the computer knows, if the right metadata is in there, the computer knows that this file belongs to Emma's profile over here, and it will make sure your music gets to that profile. So descriptive metadata is anything that identifies title, artist, track number, release date. And if you think about genre and tags like, upbeat, down tempo, jingle bell, whatever it is, just anything that describes the song is a descriptive metadata. And then the ownership metadata is what gets you paid. So on the composition side, that's the title, the writers with your IPI numbers, shares that are allocated to you. If you have a publisher, who the publisher is, the ISWC, and then for the UK, obviously the PRS tune code. And then on the recording side, you've got same bits of information, title, you've got the artist, ISRC, as you correctly said, album duration, release date, record label, anything that kind of identifies the owners is what will get you paid. So what I'm going to do is now show you how all of these kind of pieces fit together. So if we look at writer royalties, so if we just talk about you as a self-published songwriter in the UK and you're a member of PRS and MCPS, so platforms like Apple Music, as we said, with compositions, there's nothing tangible until it's recorded, right? So you can't just say to Apple, oh, here's my lyrics. So what they do is the label or the distributor will give them a file. And ultimately, behind the scenes, what Apple have done is they will have a license. I'm just going to call it PRS's license. It's slightly different, but PRS will issue Apple a license, say, hey, anything that's in our database of our members, you can make available on your platform. So then Apple will have a license from PRS. And then whoever the label or distributor is, they will deliver the file, the audio file, to Apple Music. And as part of that, they will deliver metadata. So we go back to this metadata, they will deliver this information, title, artist, ISRC, album, writer information, shares, publisher, genre, all of that information they will include. And if you are the sound recording owner, that is information you need to be delivering to the distributor. But always making sure that that information is exactly how it's been registered on the PRS database. Yeah, so making sure the titles are correct, the songwriters are correct, and making sure there's no kind of spelling mistakes or anything like that. That's information the metadata that should be delivered to your distributor, who will then deliver that information to the digital platform. They deliver that, the user listens, and then on a quarterly basis, the digital platform will take all of that usage, all of that metadata, and then send it to PRS. And what they will then do is match it. So PRS will look at their database of all the songs that are registered by their members, and then they will look at the usage database, and then any matches that occur, that is what gets paid. So you have to make sure whatever's registered on your PRS registration and the work title is the same information that forms part of the metadata that's delivered to the digital platform, because that will then be matched by PRS with the information they receive from, say, Apple Music. Those matches invoices are then sent back to Apple. Apple will pay, and then you as a creator, songwriter, will receive your royalties via your PRS account or MCPS account as well. This can take up to 6, maybe sometimes 9 months, just because with publishing, it's a bit of a mess. So anything that's been streamed, say January to March, say Q1 of a calendar, Q1, that will then get reported to Apple, say to PRS, say mid-April. It takes them maybe 60 days to process, and then it can go kind of into August, July or August before you get any royalties. So just bear that in mind, that it can take 6 months for your royalties to come through. And then on the artist side, it's a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. So whether you're an independent artist, you control your own sound recordings, or you're signed to a label, That distributor or label will deliver those tracks to the digital platform with that metadata that we just discussed. It's a regular feed, user listens, and then this is on a monthly basis. The platform's reporting back to the distributor label what's being streamed. And with sound recordings, you control it 100%. So they know where the music's coming from, they know who to pay, and then the platform will then pay the distributor or label, and then you receive your royalties. So that's usually on a monthly basis. Some distributors may pay you on a quarterly basis, so it just depends. But this is usually on a monthly cycle. And then I know we're out of time. I'm just going to go into, I'm not going to touch on this. I'm just going to go into your next steps, and then we can go into a Q&A. So as creators, as songwriters, the next steps you should really be doing is making sure, if you're not registered, get registered with PRS and MCPS. If you're a performer or a sound recording owner, get registered with PPL. Register all your works, ensure all the data is accurate, names, titles, etc. If you've done co-writes, make sure you've agreed splits with each of your co-writers. You've registered your shares. Check your statements on a regular basis. Like, keep an eye on users. If you know you've written a song and and that song's getting lots of streams on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, check back in 6 months. Make sure the royalties are flowing through. If you're missing any royalties, you can inform PRS, MCPS, and PPL, and they can go and do a little hunt for you. This also counts for kind of live music as well. If you performed anywhere live, you get royalties for that as well. So they will kind of track that for you as well. There's a QR code here which you can scan. I've kind of put something together called Singer-Songwriter Secrets, which I've just kind of like real high level, kind of just some notes to help you kind of next steps. So scan that QR code, and I'll send that round later as well if you don't get to scan it now. So that's kind of help. And then if you need a little bit of more help, just a heads up, I launched a monthly membership program earlier this year, and it's basically to help creators like yourself. There's 2 calls a month similar to this, and I'll do a little mini masterclass. You can come in, you can ask questions. Sometimes I just have Q&A ones, so you can just ask questions if something's come up, whether it's with your PRO or distribution, or you're working with somebody. There's a kind of a member area on my website where you can kind of just drop questions. Something's come up with a distributor, or you're working with someone, anything like that. You can go in and ask questions. And I've got like a member area where there's like old videos and masterclasses and loads of content that I've created for my members. Amplify Her, if you are a member, you can have a little discount code here, which is valid until end of the year. I will share this with you outside. I will get Andrea to share this with you outside.